श्रीलक्ष्मी नारायण पारायण प्रिय श्रीलक्ष्मी नारायण पारायण धैर्य गांभीर्य भावदे मनवू निन्नली निಲ್ಲಲಿ मन धैर्य गांभीर्य भावदे मनवೂ निन्नಲಿ ನಿಲ್ಲಲಿ ಅನುದಿನ ನಿನ್ನ ನೆನೆದು ನೆನೆದು ಮನವು ನಿನ್ನಲಿ ನಿಲ್ಲಲಿ ಅನುದಿನ ನಿನ್ನ ನೆನೆದು ನೆನೆದು ಮನವು ನಿನ್ನಲಿ ಮನವು ನಿನ್ನಲಿ ಮನವು ನಿನ್ನಲಿ ನಿಲ್ಲಲಿ ನಿಲ್ಲಲಿ ನಿಲ್ಲಲಿ.
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै. Let us chant from verse number 3. Shri Bhagavānuvaca Aksharam Brahma Paramam स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते भूता भावोद्भवकरः विसर्गः कर्म सन्नितः अधिभूतं क्षरो भावः अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र देहे देहभृतां वर अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन् मुक्त्वा कलेवरं यः प्रयाति समद्भावं याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः. यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावं त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरं तं तमेवेति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः. तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मामनुस्मरयुध्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः मामे वैष्यस्य संशयम्. अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन cetasa paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. After answering the first 6 questions of Arjuna, Bhagavān takes up the 7th question: how to die remembering Bhagavān? What is the way to leave the physical body? What are the things to be done? So Bhagavān makes it clear, at the time of death, one should remember me alone. But this is not going to be an easy task, because the last thought of the dying man is going to decide his future birth. And in order to have the last thought as the God thought, tremendous amount of momentum for this thought must have been created. It is just not possible that a person lives a licentious life and then remember God at the time of death. It is not possible. It is the thought momentum which is going to decide the last thought. It is exactly like a ship or a train which is moving at a very high speed. Now suddenly you want to change the direction or stop it. Is it possible? A ship which is going at a very high speed, as you must have seen in that film Titanic. The ship was cruising at a very high speed, and then they found that there is an iceberg there. What they could do? They switched off the engine, they reversed the engine, but even then it was too late. That momentum was so strong that the engine could not take it. In the same way, or like the train which is going at a very high speed, even if the brakes are applied, the train will continue to move in the same direction. So too with the thought momentum also. So therefore, what is the suggestion given here? Bhagavān says, Tatsmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara. Even while living, if the living is intelligent living, then dying will be intelligent dying. Intelligent dying without intelligent living is impossible. So therefore, how should we intelligently live? Sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara. Remember me and then perform your duties. Never forget me. But then how to ensure that we constantly remember Bhagavān? Remembering Bhagavān is easy when there is love for Bhagavān. Remembering Bhagavān is easy when we understand the importance of Bhagavān. Remembering Bhagavān is easy when we understand the glory of Bhagavān. Bhagavān is the ultimate reality when we know this. When our intellect appreciates this fact that it is this Bhagavān upon which the whole illusory world is projected, Bhagavān alone is the ultimate reality, then the intellect starts valuing Bhagavān. And when we come to know that all our problems can be solved only through Bhagavān, then we start loving Bhagavān. So both mind and intellect should cooperate, should be in harmony with each other in choosing Bhagavān as the ultimate goal of life. So, Mai arpita mano buddhi. Now, what are the factors we must keep in mind while doing this sadhana? So, Bhagavān says, Abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa na anyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati partha anuchintayan. So 3 factors are mentioned by Bhagavān in order to ensure that the last thought is God thought. So these are the things which we must do while living. So whatever instructions are given, it is not at the time of death. It is supposed to be done while living. What should be done at the time of death? Later on it will come. Now what is being said is what has to be done while living. So what has to be done? Abhyasa yoga yuktena. Abhyasa has to be done. Then what kind of mind? Chetasa na anyagamina. The mind which is not wandering anywhere. Then anuchintayan. Constantly thinking of, reflecting upon that great truth. So yesterday we had seen what is anuchintayan. What is anuchintayan? Anu followed by what? Followed by the study of the scriptures through a competent acharya. Understanding the scriptures thoroughly, because unless we understand the scriptures, we will never have an idea of what to meditate upon, how to meditate upon God, what is the nature of God. All these things can be known only when we study the scriptures. The scriptures are called the manual of right living. Without the guidance of the scriptures, we will be confused in this world, because this world is such a complex world, complicated world. And in this complicated world, we have this complicated body, mind, intellect. The equipments are complicated. The field is complicated. Everything is complicated. So we need guidance. And who is the right person to guide us? None other than Bhagavān himself. The Lord who is the creator of the creatures, the Lord who is the creator of the creation, He alone is the right person to guide us. So therefore, Bhagavad Gita, the song sung by Bhagavān in guiding the erring humanity. So these words are all golden words. So then what we have to do? We should study this instruction manual. And then, so first, thorough understanding of the scriptures. This is the first thing to be done. This is the meaning anuchintayan. So once you have studied, reflect upon it. Chintayan, reflect, meditate upon it, so that all the doubts are clear as to what has to be done. Understanding should be very clear. Understanding becomes clear only when we reflect upon the teachings of the scriptures. After that, what has to be done? Abhyasa yoga yuktena. We have to cultivate, we have to keep on practicing it. Constant practice is necessary. If anything has to become a habit, we have to constantly practice. Without constant practice, habits cannot be formed. Now, what is the habit we are trying to form now? The habit of God remembrance. The constant practice, it is such a wonderful thing. Have you seen this water creating cracks on rocks? Water is such a tender thing, such a soft thing, but constantly when that water flows through the rock, what happens? Crevice is formed, isn't it? On one side we have this hard rock, on the other side we have this soft water. So who should win the battle? We may think the rock will win the battle, but with constant flow, this tender water is able to create that crevice even upon the hard rock. So this emphasizes the importance of constant practice. In the beginning it may appear to be difficult. Don't lose heart. Keep on continuing. Keep on continuing. In spite of difficulties, in spite of failures, don't give up. You have nothing to worry. You have infinite number of births. Infinite number of opportunities are given by the compassionate Lord. So start right now. Start as best as you can. Do as best as you can. This is the meaning Abhyasa yoga yuktena. At the same time, the mind has to be educated. What is the education to be given to the mind? Chetasa na anyagamina. The whole sadhana is to be done with the mind. So therefore, the mind has to be thoroughly educated about the realities of life. The mind has to be re-educated through the teachings of the scriptures. So what is the re-education to be given to the mind? The problem is, mind has now become anyagamin. Anyagamin means what? It goes everywhere other than God. It wanders. Like a street dog, this mind is wandering everywhere. This is the problem which the seeker will face in the beginning of meditation, in the beginning of sadhana. This wandering mind is what is technically called as vikshepa. Now the question is, why does this mind wander? Why is our mind wandering all the time? So this psychology has to be understood. The reason has to be understood. The mind wanders because it is seeking happiness. Mind, according to its present knowledge, has wrongly understood that world is the source of happiness. So if world is the source of happiness, where should the mind go to get happiness? It should go to the world. And there are so many worldly things, beings and situations. And therefore you will constantly see that at the seat of meditation, when you want to make the mind silent, the mind never remains silent. Mind will constantly wander in the world of things, beings and situations. So now, with force if you try to stop, that is not an intelligent way of handling the mind. It may at the most lead to suppression. In spirituality, we don't talk of suppression. Then do you mean to say indulgence is the solution? No. Indulgence also is not the solution. Suppression also is not the solution. Then what is the solution? Sublimation is the solution. What do you mean sublimating the mind? Sublimating the mind means exposing the mind to the higher joys of life. Re-educating the mind. And what is the re-educating the mind? Telling the mind, oh my dear mind, there is no joy in the outer world. Actually, the joy comes from the self. This is re-educating the mind. Whatever joys you get from the world, it may appear to be joy, but in the end, there is only pain. The joy which ends in pain is not joy, it is pain. Agre amrutopamam pariname vishamiva. This is the nature of the world. In the beginning, it may appear to be amrutam, nectar, but in the end, it will finally turn out to be visham, poison. Any pleasure of this world, any joy of this world comes under this category. In the beginning it gives joy, in the end it gives only pain. Bhagavatam gives the example of this itching. While scratching, there is a great joy. But after scratching, the very same joy becomes pain, isn't it? Then we think, I shouldn't have scratched. This is not only with this itching, the world is full of itching objects. You tend to seek these objects thinking that it is a source of joy, but finally you will end up only in sorrow. Ye hi samsparshaja bhogaha dukkhayonaya evate adyantavantah kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Arjuna, whatever this world, this sense pleasures, when the senses come in contact with the sense objects, there is a joy. But Arjuna, understand, this is dukkha yoni only, the source of all sorrows. Adyantavantaha, all this joy has got a beginning and an end. All the joys born out of sense contact has a beginning, has an end. Wise people don't revel in it. Nateshu ramate buddha, very clearly said. So now this is how the mind has to be educated. So whenever the mind goes into the world, what is the education to be given? Oh my dear mind, the source of joy is not there. The source of joy is here. What is it that you want? You want infinite happiness for infinite period of time, isn't it? There is a way to get it. We all can get infinite happiness, infinite peace for infinite period of time. There is a way. And what is that way? The way is not outward, the way is inward. This education has to be given. Otherwise what will happen? Mind will wander. So what has to be done? Educate the mind. What are the education to be given? Everything, whatever the mind craves for, meditate upon the defects of that thing. Meditate upon the limitation of that thing. When you meditate upon the limitations, the mind will slowly stop craving for all such things. Then the mind will no more become anyagamin. So what are the things to be meditated upon? We have discussed this before also, but briefly we will mention the first 6 verses of Bhaja Govindam. So what are the limitations to be meditated upon? Number 1, limitations of worldly knowledge. Everything of the world is full of limitation. This is how the meditation should go. Number 1, limitations of worldly knowledge. So what does Bhaja Govindam say? Samprapte sannhite kale nahi rakshati dukran karane. At the time of death. Now there also the time of death is mentioned. Samprapte sannhite kale. At that appointed time. What is that appointed time? That time when we have appointment with Yamaraj. That is that appointment. Everyone has an appointment. At that appointed time, this worldly knowledge is not going to save you. This is the greatest defect of all worldly knowledge except spiritual knowledge. Do you mean to say spiritual knowledge is going to save you? The spiritual knowledge will not save you from physical death, but it will save you from the fear of death. This has to be clearly understood. What does spiritual knowledge do? It doesn't take away the physical death. Physically everybody has to die. You have no choice. But then it takes away the fear of death. You are able to cheerfully face death. Why? Because you come to know through spiritual knowledge that there is nothing called death. There is only dropping the physical body. Dropping the physical body is not my non-existence. My existence continues in spite of the fall of the body. This knowledge gives me strength to face death. I am able to cheerfully welcome death because death is a wonderful thing. It takes away my old body, and if I am not enlightened, it gives me a new body, a new opportunity. So therefore, I am able to cheerfully welcome death. And this strength comes from spiritual knowledge alone, not from the worldly knowledge. So this is the limitation of worldly knowledge. Second one, limitations of worldly wealth. What is the limitation of worldly wealth? Worldly wealth can no doubt roti, kapada, makan, food, clothing, shelter. It can take care of it. It is needed. All the needs are to be met only through material wealth. We need it, but this material wealth cannot guarantee anything after these basic needs are taken care. Peace of mind, can the material wealth give? No way. The spiritual knowledge, material wealth cannot give. So it has its limitation. We should know the limitation of material wealth also. Can material wealth prevent you from death? No. There are so many things which material wealth cannot give you. It cannot make you feel totally secure. No. In fact, the more the wealth, the more the feeling of insecurity. So therefore, we must meditate upon the limitations of material wealth also. Second one. Third one, limitations of worldly pleasures. Worldly pleasures. What is the problem? The problem is, while indulging in pleasures, there is joy, but afterwards it is only loss. As we have seen, it is only poison. The whole vitalities of the body, it gets drained away. There is so much of distraction. The body, the senses, everything becomes weak with indulgence. And moreover, the mind becomes a slave to these pleasures. Because these pleasures are such, any amount of indulgence, never will the mind say enough. This is the problem. Kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena analena cha. This is the example given. This kama, the desire is such that it's like fire. Any amount of fuel you put, the fire will not say enough. In the same way, the mind also, any amount of these indulgences cannot satiate the mind. This is another major defect. The more and more you indulge, the more and more you become a slave of it. You become addicted to it. Instead of you becoming the master of your mind, you become a slave of your mind. This is the tragedy of all worldly pleasures. Then, fourth one, the limitations of worldly existence. What is the limitation? Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam tattva jivitam atishaya chapalam. Like that water droplet playing on the lotus petal, all our life is so uncertain. A small breeze and the water droplet falls down, becomes non-existent. In the same way, this existence in the worldly plane is full of defects. We don't know who is going to go, at what time, we don't know. So this is the limitation of worldly existence. Meditate upon it. Then, fifth one, limitations of worldly love. What kind of love do we get from this world? All this love is conditional love. Whatever love, whatever respect you get from the society, it is conditional. There is a condition. Condition means what? You are able to give something, therefore you get love. As long as you are giving, so long you will be loved. The day when you stop giving, the love also will cease. This is called as conditional love. Whereas the love you receive from Bhagavān is unconditional love. So there is a limitation of worldly love, conditional. Yavad vikto parjana saktaha tavan nija parivaro raktaha pascha jivati jarjarag dehe vartam pritchati vartam kopina pritchati gehe. As long as you are an earning member in the society, in your family, all those family members will love you, revere you, serve you. But the day you become retired, you have no money, etc., and nobody will ask anything about you. You will be cornered like a piece of furniture. This is how the world is. Bhaja Govindam is a hammer. Limitations of worldly love. Then limitations of worldly relationships. Every worldly relationship has a beginning. It will have, unfortunately, an end. The very same relationship which gives me joy, the very same relationship will give me in the future as much pain as it had given joy. This is a tragedy. Worldly relationships are impermanent. Our relationship with God alone is permanent. So where should we invest our time, energy, etc.? In the permanent relationship. That doesn't mean that you should. That doesn't mean you should disregard this worldly relationship. That's not the point. Even when we are living in this world, let us live in this world, loving everyone, serving everyone. This is how we must live. Making everyone happy. But at the back of the mind, we should not lose touch with the reality. This is how we have to live. The reality is everything is impermanent. So therefore, in this way we have to re-educate the mind. This is the meaning, chetasa na anyagamina. Once the mind has understood that this world I should not get attached to, because it is full of defects, because it is full of impermanence. Such an impermanent world cannot give me permanent happiness. Once the mind understands this, then even when the mind remains in the world, it remains unattached to the world. Padma patram iva ambhasa, like the lotus in water, untouched by water, but gaining all nourishment from water, remaining in water, it remains untouched by water. This is the ideal way of living. Remain in the world. You don't have to escape from the world, but intelligently make contact with everything in the world. What do you mean intelligent contact? Not getting stuck up anywhere, in anything, in any being, or in any situation. Not getting stuck up. Bhagavad Gita never asks us to renounce the world, to give up the world, to escape from the world. No. What Bhagavad Gita says is remain in the world and intelligently face the challenges of the world, but remain unaffected by the world. Running away from world is very easy. The greatest challenge is remaining in the world and getting unaffected by the world. This is the challenge. Driving in a place in an open ground is very easy, but driving on Indian roads, where you will find a bullock also, pothole also, hump also, all kinds of wrong driving also, no signal, in such an Indian road, if you have mastered driving, then you can drive anywhere, isn't it? In the same way, we must learn to live in this world, not learning to live away from the world. This is not the way of Bhagavad Gita. That is why the whole teaching was given in the battlefield, not in some forest, some ashram. No, the whole teaching was given in the thick of activity. Not just mere activity, war, where killing is happening, in that middle of the two armies, going to fight against each other, Bhagavad Gita was given. So therefore, what are we supposed to do? Let us learn to live in this world. What is the right learning? Remain unattached. Serve everyone, love everyone, do your duties perfectly well, but don't get bound by anything. How can you remain unbound? You can remain unbound by educating the mind. And what is the education to be given? Everything in this world is painful. Oh my dear mind, if you are seeking happiness, don't go there. And once the mind has known this reality, such a mind will become what? Na anyagamina chetasa. It will stop going out, because it comes to know happiness is not there. But then at the same time, you should do the other thing also. What? Happiness is not there. Where it is, that also you should point out, isn't it? Just mere one part, happiness is not there, that alone will not do. You must also direct the mind to the place where happiness is there. And what is the source of happiness? It is nothing but our own self. What is the nature of the self? Sat, Chit, Anand. Infinite bliss is the nature of the self. So therefore you should tell the mind, oh my dear mind, stop going out, come within, go within, because that source of happiness is within. Then what will such a mind do? Such a mind will try to withdraw. Such a mind can easily detach from the world because it has understood the limitations of the world. Such a mind can easily attach to God because the mind has understood the value of attaching to God. So, in the whole of spirituality, only two things you have to do. What are they? Detach, attach. Detach from the world, attach to God. This is all what we have to do. And the whole of Abhyasa Yoga is nothing but this. detach-attach yoga. That is Abhyasa yoga. Learning to detach, learning to attach. What will ensure easy detachment? Thorough understanding of the limitations of the world will ease our detachment from the world. What will ensure easy attachment? Our love for God, value for God will ensure easy attachment to God. This is all we have to do, nothing else. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa na anyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati partha anuchintayan. So anuchintayan means getting clear understanding about what is God, what is world, what is real, what is unreal, what is permanent, what is impermanent. This Viveka you get from the study of the scriptures. Then Vairāgya you develop by understanding the nature of the thing. Vairāgya helps in withdrawing the mind. Intense Mumukshutvam, desire comes when you know the nature of Bhagavān. So Mumukshutvam is the desire to become one with God. Vairāgya is the dispassion towards the world. Viveka is the ability to see what is real and what is unreal. Viveka, Vairāgya, and then Mumukshutvam. Now these are, you will find, these are the virtues necessary for a Vedantic student. They are called as a Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. All these things are mentioned here only. Clear understanding of life, what is real, what is unreal, that is the first step. Second step, learning to detach, and then learning to attach. The whole thing is an abhyasa. You have to keep on practicing it. You have to keep on improving your ability to attach and detach. That constant practice to improve our ability in attaching and detaching is called Abhyasa Yoga. So how will we know we are improving in our ability? You will know. As you progress in meditation, wandering will stop. As you progress in meditation, you will find greater and greater control over your mind. The mind starts listening to you. In the beginning, you found that you were listening to the mind. The mind would carry you everywhere, here and there, and you become helpless in the hands of your monstrous mind. This was how you began. But slowly, slowly, as you keep practicing, you will find that the mind comes readily under your instruction, your guidance. It listens to you. It becomes an obedient mind. It becomes a tamed mind. It becomes a disciplined mind. Such a mind, you can easily direct it towards Bhagavān. It takes time. Okay, Bhagavān, I understood. But then Bhagavān, you said anuchintayan. Isn't it? Reflecting upon the nature of Bhagavān. Bhagavān, will you please elaborate on that? How should I meditate on God? Who is God? You have just mentioned anuchintayan, meditating upon God. But Bhagavān, will you please give us some tips regarding how to meditate upon God? Will you give some tips? Arjuna, definitely. Take, here it is, verse number 9. How to meditate on God. Kavim Puranamanushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanusmaredyaha Sarvasya dhataramachintya rupam Aditya varnam tamasaf parastat Kavim Puranamanushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanusmaredyaha Sarvasya dhataramachintya rupam Aditya Adityavarnam tamasah parasthat. Some pointers are given as to how to meditate upon God. Kavim, number 1. Puranam, number 2. Anushasitaram, number 3. Anoraniyamsam, number 4. Sarvasya dhataram, number 5. Achintya rupam, number 6. Adityavarnam, number 7. Tamasah parasthat, number 8. So how many pointers? 8 pointers are given in brief. So how to meditate upon that God? I understand I should withdraw the mind from the world, but how to meditate upon that God? So now we have 8 pointers. We will just reorganize them so that explaining them becomes easy. So first one we will take Aditya Varnam. So what is the nature of Bhagavān? He is like Aditya. Aditya means what? Sun. Varna means color. The one having the color, the brilliance, the shine of the sun. Now please understand, we are not talking of the external sun, we are talking of the light of consciousness. Now these are all mystic terms used. So if you read the translation, you will see that some light of sun has to be meditated upon. These are all mystic terms. So therefore we need great acharyas like Bhagavān Shankaracharya to comment upon it and to make us realize what it is. So what is this Aditya Varnam? We are talking of the light of consciousness. So what is being said? Meditate upon God as the very consciousness in you, which is of the nature of light. Brilliant light. Now very many times consciousness is compared with light. What is light? How will you define light? Light is that in the presence of which things are seen. Is the definition okay? What is light? How will you define light? Light is that in the presence of which things are seen. Second definition, light is that which doesn't need another light to make itself known. Isn't it? These 2 definitions are okay. Light is that in the presence of which everything is seen, and light is that which doesn't need any other light to make its presence felt. The same properties are applicable to the light of consciousness also. Now what is the unique feature about this light of consciousness? It is this light of consciousness in the presence of which we are aware of everything around us. We are conscious of everything around us. What all are we conscious of? We are conscious of Shabda. Shabda means sound. Sparsha, touch. Rupa, form. Rasa, taste. Gandha, smell. We are conscious of Shabda, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. In the light of consciousness, we are aware of sound. In the light of consciousness, we are aware of form, smell, touch, taste, etc. So in which light are we conscious of all this? We are conscious of all this in the light of consciousness. So consciousness can be compared to a light, in the light of which we are aware of all this. Yes or no? Yes. In the light of consciousness, I am aware of my existence. In the light of consciousness, I am aware of my thoughts. So when you close your eyes, what do you see? You see your thoughts. How do you see your thoughts? In which light do you see your thoughts? So we say, we see these thoughts in the light of consciousness. So therefore, consciousness can be compared with light. To see the light, you don't need another light. In the same way, to experience consciousness, do you need anything else? Do you need your eyes to experience consciousness? Do you need your skin to experience consciousness? No, you don't need any of your sense organs to experience consciousness. In fact, you don't need your mind also to experience consciousness. Consciousness is self-evident. It is illumining, just like the light. You know you are. I know I am. I may be deaf, dumb, etc. But I know I am. That amness is consciousness, is awareness. So Bhagavān has to be meditated as the very consciousness. And this light of consciousness is a very unique light, highly superior to the ordinary light. In what way this light of consciousness is special? Ordinary light can show you at the most the color and form of a thing. It cannot show you Shabda, Sparsha, etc. Only Rupa can be shown. Shabda can you see with the ordinary light? Sparsha, Rupa you can see. Rasa, Gandha, no. Ordinary light has no entry into any of this. With the ordinary light, can you see your thoughts? But with the light of consciousness, you can. This light is a unique light which can know everything. Can you know your feelings with ordinary light? With light of consciousness, you can be aware of your feelings. Isn't it? Now see the next term, tamasaf parastha. This light is a unique light which can even illumine darkness, tamas. Can you illumine darkness with ordinary light? The moment the light comes, darkness is gone. Can you see darkness with ordinary light? But the beauty of consciousness is you can see darkness in the light of consciousness also, isn't it? When the room is dark, in which light are you seeing that darkness of the room? In the light of consciousness. When you close your eyes, what do you experience? Darkness. In which light are you seeing that darkness behind your eyes? In the light of consciousness. That's why it is said, tamasaf parastat. It is beyond darkness also. It is the one which illumines even the darkness. Now this tamas also means avidya, ignorance. This light of consciousness is such that it illumines your knowledge also, it illumines your ignorance also. This is another beauty of this consciousness. I know English, isn't it? I am aware of my knowledge of English. So in the light of awareness, I know my knowledge of English. At the same time, I don't know Spanish. How do you know? You don't know Spanish. In the light of consciousness, I am aware of my Spanish ignorance. So what is this consciousness doing? It is illumining my ignorance also. So this consciousness is able to illumine my knowledge also. It is able to illumine my ignorance also. Tamasaf parastat. That's the beauty of consciousness. So how to meditate on God? Meditate as one's own consciousness. Something which never comes and goes. Something which is always there in the three states. Whether it is waking state, whether it is dream state, whether it is deep sleep state, consciousness is always there. Meditate upon that. And what is the nature of consciousness? Sarvasya dhataram. Third term. Sarvasya dhataram means what? The support of everything. This consciousness which is there, shining in your heart, don't take it to be light. As the scientists do, don't think that this consciousness is a product of some chemical reaction happening in the body. This is what they say. It is not the product of some chemical reaction happening in the body. Rather, it is the very support of the whole world. Sarvasya dhataram. How can you say this consciousness is the support of the whole world? Where do you see the world? Where do you experience the world? We all experience this world in our mind, isn't it? Mind is there, world is there. Mind is not there, world is not there. This is our experience. When we go to sleep, is the world there? No. Why? Mind is not there. So whenever the mind comes, world comes. Whenever the mind goes, world goes. So therefore, what can we conclude? World depends on the mind for its existence. Whenever the mind is, world is. Whenever the mind is not, world is not. Therefore, what is the conclusion? The world depends on the mind for its existence. Quite difficult nut to crack. When the fire is, smoke is. When the fire is not, smoke is not. So therefore, smoke depends on the fire for its existence. Fine. If this be true, what is our experience? When the mind is, world is. When the mind is not, world is not. Therefore, who depends on whom? The world depends on the mind for its existence. So which is higher? Mind is higher. Why? Mind supports the world. No, Swamiji, we may be sleeping, but the world is still there. No. The world is there for whom? For another person who is waking. Isn't it? That another person is also seeing the world through his mind only, no? Without mind, let anyone challenge to experience the world. Everybody is seeing through the mind only. There is no world without mind. So therefore, the whole world exists in the mind. Now what is mind? Mind is nothing but flow of thoughts. And where do these thoughts exist? All these thoughts exist in consciousness. How do we know? We know it. When we sit in meditation, we find the thoughts. Where do you find the thoughts? In consciousness, in awareness. I am aware of the thoughts coming. I am aware of the thoughts going. So where are these thought ripples present? They are present in consciousness. So who supports the thoughts? Consciousness. World is supported by the mind. Mind is nothing but thoughts. Thoughts are supported by consciousness. So therefore, what is the conclusion? World is supported by consciousness. So therefore, consciousness becomes all supporter. Sarvasya dhataram. Everything exists in consciousness. Everything is essentially consciousness. And therefore, achintya rupam. What is the nature of consciousness? You cannot think of it. Why? Thoughts exist in consciousness. Thoughts are like the ripples in consciousness. You cannot think of consciousness. You can only be conscious of thoughts. This is a statement. You cannot think of consciousness. You can only be conscious. You cannot think of it. You can only be it. Consciousness is not something which you can think. It is something you have to just be. That state of being is the state of experiencing consciousness. The state of being is the state of experiencing God. Seeing God is being God. Abiding in consciousness is the way to experience consciousness. You can't think of consciousness. Why you can't think of consciousness? Because anoraniyamsam. It is subtler than the subtlest. It is the subtlest thing in this world. Anoraniyasam. Very, very subtle. Subtlest. How do you define the subtlety of a thing? How do you define the subtlety? When more and more senses are able to grasp an object, then we say it is a grosser thing. For example, earth. Earth has got Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. All the 5 Jnanendriyas can perceive earth. We can touch it, smell it, it has color. So Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha is there. Therefore we say it is the grossest. Because all the 5 sense organs can perceive it. Next higher is water. In that what is missing? Water? Yes, water. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Gandha is missing. If it is pure water, you will not have any smell. Smell is a property only of earth. So in water, the first 4 are there. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa. So we can say water is subtler than earth. Go one step higher. What is the next one? Fire. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa is there. Rasa and Gandha is not there. Taste is not there. Smell is not there in fire. So we can say fire is still subtler. What is the next one? Air. In air, Shabda and Sparsha alone are there. Rupa, Rasa, Gandha is not there. So air is still subtler. And finally, space. In space, only Shabda is there, sound is there. The rest, nothing is there. So space is the subtlest as far as the 5 elements are concerned. Is there something subtler than space? We say yes, mind. Why? The whole space, where does it exist? It exists in mind. In deep sleep, what happens to space? Space is not there. So since mind is the supporter of space, we say mind is subtler than space. And the beauty of this mind is it is able to accommodate all Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha without getting affected. The subtle thing can accommodate the grosser thing. So mind is subtler than space. Is there something subtler than mind? Yes. Who is he? Nothing but consciousness. So which is the subtlest? Anoraniyamsam. The subtlest is consciousness. Subtler than the subtlest. Anoraniyan mahato mahiyan, we say. It is not only subtler than the subtlest, it is greater than the greatest. Anyway, that mahato mahiyan is not here. Only anoraniyamsam. Now this is the way you have to meditate upon this consciousness. Now another thing is also implied here. If I have to experience this consciousness, because this consciousness is very, very subtle, I must have my instrument also equally subtle to experience subtle consciousness. Yes or no? A subtler thing can be experienced only through a subtler mind. So therefore, if I have to experience this state of Godhood, this consciousness, what should I have? I should have the right instrument. And what is the right instrument? A subtle mind is the right instrument. A subtle mind is nearer to God. What do you mean a subtle mind? A pure mind is a subtle mind. Pure mind. What do you mean a pure mind? A mind filled with devotion, a mind filled with dispassion, a mind filled with all noble virtues, Daivi Sampat. Such a mind is called a pure mind. And in such a pure mind, being subtle, it is able to experience that state of consciousness. So God is residing in the hearts of all, but who will experience Him? The one who has a pure mind, subtle mind, anoraniyamsam. And because consciousness is the very support of the whole world, Kavim, Kavi. Who is a Kavi? Kavi doesn't mean poet here. Kavi means Krantadarshi or Sarvajna, the one who is able to see the past, present and future. Omniscient. Kavi means omniscient. Sarvajna. Bhagavān is Sarvajna. He knows everything. Why he knows everything? He knows everything because everything is residing in him. He is Sarvasya Dhataram. Just like we can say, ocean knows every wave because every wave resides in ocean. The clay knows every pot and pan. The gold knows every golden ornaments. In the same way we can say, this consciousness knows everything because everything resides in it. And therefore, he is called Kavi, Sarvajna, omniscient. And therefore, Anushasitaram. What do you mean Anushasitaram? The ruler. The one who rules. One who commands. One who disciplines everyone. Anushasana means discipline. So Anushasitaram means the one who disciplines everyone. He is the karma phala data, the giver of karma phala. No one dare to question him. Bhagavān, what you have done is wrong. What you have given me is less. You should have given more. You dare not complain or question because he is Kavi. He knows everything. Why he knows everything? As consciousness, he has witnessed everything. Another name of consciousness is Sakshi. Sakshat ikshate iti Sakshi. The one who has seen it everything directly. Another name of consciousness is Sakshi. Sometimes we say witnessing consciousness. The ultimate witness in us is this consciousness. So therefore, whatever naughty things we have done, he knows it. So since he knows it, he is the right person to give justice. He is the right person to give the decision. Nobody dares to question. That is why when the physical body is given to us, we are not even asked. We are just given, isn't it? As though we are thrown into this world with a physical body, in a particular environment, we are not even asked. Why? There is no need of asking. He has seen it. What has to be given, he knows. So he is rightly named Karma Phala Data, the giver of Karma Phala. He is giver of Karma Phala because he has seen the karma. In all our court, there are, they say, lakhs of cases pending. Years together, it is just piling up. In all court, whether it is High Court, Local Court, Supreme Court, it's just piling up. Why? It's just piling up because you can't take a decision. You can't take a decision because there are two parties having opposing claims and nobody has seen the truth. We don't know. Such a case is not there in Bhagavān's court. Why? He has seen it directly. So he need not ask anyone. Immediately all the cases are disposed of, cleared, no pending cases. Just imagine infinite number of jivatmas, what kind of karma they have done, when they have done, why they have done, with what intention they have done, how much they have done. Every data is there with him. Sarvajna. Just imagine how difficult it must have been for him to take decision. No difficulty at all. Why? He has seen it. He's a constant, what you call, on CCTV. This CCTV is there everywhere. And what is the battery capacity? All the time, infinite battery capacity. What is the memory capacity? Infinite memory capacity. Each and every jiva's infinite past is recorded there in this small brain. Can you believe? Everything is recorded. His feelings, his emotions, intentions, past actions, everything is recorded. What a wonderful CCTV it must be, isn't it? infinite battery backup, infinite memory, and no servicing needed. It will never get fused also. Right? That is how he has become Anushasitaram, the ruler. That's why it is said, not even a speck of dust can move without his permission here or there. Not even a blade of grass can move. In Upanishad it is said, Bhayadasya tapati, bhayat tapati suryaha, bhayat indrascha vayuscha, mrityur dhavati panchama. Everything in this cosmos is functioning so well. Out of his fear, the sun rises. Out of his fear, the wind blows. Out of his fear, the fire burns. Everything is so perfect, except human beings. Everything is so perfect. Why everything is perfect? There is a lawgiver and equally strict law administrator. Everything is perfect in this world. Anushasitaram. This way you must meditate upon the consciousness in you. Who is that God? Right there in you as your own self. As the very I in us. My own higher nature. This perfect Bhagavān is not somewhere outside. It is my own higher nature. So what happens when you start meditating on such a Bhagavān? When you start meditating on such a Bhagavān, what happens is my self-respect grows. Yes, Bhagavān, I am a useless fellow, but one great solace is there, that you are there as my very own self. I may not have any ability or talent. I am a useless fellow, okay. I am a good for nothing BMI, okay. But there is one great thing in me. And what is it? The Lord Himself is the self in me. So what happens? You will stop comparing yourself with others. You are great in your own way. Not because your BMI is great, but that consciousness which lends sentiency to the BMI, that consciousness is great. That consciousness is infinite. That consciousness is all-knowing. That consciousness is all-powerful. And where is that consciousness? Right in me, as my own higher me. Such a person becomes liberated from all kinds of negativities of the mind, like jealousy, etc., like anger, etc., like hatred, etc. There is something in me so glorious, so perfect, so infinite, that I have to just turn to Him to get a sense of fulfillment. I don't have to depend on anything. I don't have to depend on my abilities and talents. No, I just have to depend on that consciousness. I have to just shift my attention onto that consciousness, which is my own self. And the moment your attention shifts there, all the negativities of the mind just disappears like the mist in front of rising sun. There's a glory of Vedantic knowledge. That's why there's a beautiful verse in Mundakopanishad. Dvasuparna sayuja sakhaya samanam vriksham parishasvajate tayoranyaf pippalam swadu atti anashnan anyo abhichakashiti. Very famous metaphor in Mundakopanishad. There are two birds. There are two birds where they are very similar. Very similar. And they are perched on the same tree. One is sitting on top, the other is sitting on the bottom. Two branches. One is sitting higher, the other is sitting lower. Two birds who look very similar. Dvasuparna. And they are very, they are very friendly with each other. Sakhaya. They are friends. Samanam vriksham parishatsva jate. Both of them are sitting on the same tree. Out of that, tayoho anyaha. One bird, what is it doing? Pippalam swadu atti. It is eating the fruit of that tree. And what is the other bird doing? Anashnan anyaha abhijakashiti. The other bird is just watching on, just looking, just witnessing, not eating. So one bird, what is it doing? It is eating the fruit. What is the other bird doing? It is just watching. And what is the condition of this bird which is eating the fruit? Now who is this bird? It is none other than we Jivatmas who are eating the fruits. What are the fruits? Karma phala is the fruit. Punya karma phala, sweet fruit. Papa karma phala, bitter fruit. So all kinds of fruits are there. So who is this fruit eating bird? We the Jivatmas. So what is his condition? Samane vrikshe purusho nimagnaha anishaya shochati mukhyamanaha. This bird is miserable, grieving, suffering because of his own limitations. But jushtam yada pashyati anyamisham, the moment its attention turns to the other bird, and what is the other bird doing? Doing nothing, just witnessing. What happens? Asya mahimanam iti vita shokaha. All his sorrows gone away. The moment it sees the other bird. Who is this other bird? This other bird is none other than the consciousness in us. What is it doing? It is just watching. Akarta abhokta. Not doing anything, just watching. And who is this consciousness? Sakhaya is the closest friend, well-wisher. So what are we supposed to do to put an end to all miseries? Turn within. You are already perfect. You don't have to become perfect in this world. You don't have to attain anything of this world. You are already perfect. Only know that you are perfect. And once you come to know that you are already perfect nature, you are liberated. Even while living. You don't have to even drop the body also. So meditate on this consciousness. So what happens when you meditate on this consciousness? You become free from all limitations and imperfections. You come to know your true nature as perfect consciousness. So even by living, you live a perfect life, a fulfilled life. Such a person, now the time has come. He has to leave the body. Prarabdha karma has come. At the time of death, what does he do? That is the next verse we will see tomorrow. Beautiful chapter, isn't it? Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.